So in 3 years, who'll be more important for the Spurs, De'Aaron Fox or Stephon Castle?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs on the WNBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for KENS 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hope you had a great weekend. And as always, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever we get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, KENS 5 Plus app, YouTube. You know what to do. That is subscribe, become an everydayer or remain an everydayer right here on Locked On Spurs. We appreciate it. What are we talking about today? We're going to be asking kind of a big question here. In 3 years, who will be more important for the Spurs? De'Aaron Fox versus Stephon Castle. So we're going to look at that. And then time permitting, we'll get one or two Locked On Spurs fan comments to react to. Can you believe it? We're almost there to the regular season. Still got to get through training camp, a little bit of preseason games. But once we get through that, it is go time. So cannot wait for that. It'll be fun times. All right. So yeah, in 3 years from now, who will be more important for the Spurs, Castle or Fox? There's arguments you made on both sides. I kind of teased out already what I feel about this. My answer is Fox. I'll dive deeper into that. But our guest is going to actually make an argument for Castle being more important for the Spurs over the veteran. Yeah, the veteran, De'Aaron Fox. He's going to bring him on. He is back. Everybody join us on a Monday again. There's a pattern here. Matt. You seem to appear on Mondays, so we're going to start calling it Mondays with Matt, I guess.
Perfect. Yeah, I love it. I'd love to be a weekly guest on Mondays. I like Mondays.
Yeah, all right. He is with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Make sure to follow him on X at MattGZ. Do that right now. Matt is kind of a bit of a time crunch right now, so we're going to zip through this. I'll kick us off, Matt. And if we're asking the big question, who'll be more important, Fox versus Castle? I said it before. I got to stick with it. You got to go with De'Aaron Fox. He is the veteran. He is still just barely entering his prime years. This team, you can make an argument they're kind of still in the rebuild or maybe just already taking their first steps out of it. Nonetheless, these are the beginning stages of getting out of that rebuild. You need a guy like De'Aaron who has a lot more years versus Castle, has seen a lot more games and situations than Castle, has been to the playoffs than Castle. That type of experience coupled with the fact that he's a potent offensive weapon. He's a pretty good defender, not all world, but he's really good. Again, led the league for a few years in steals. You put that together with Victor Wembanyama, that's a deadly 1-2 punch right now, Matt. If this team wants to be in the mix and be back in the NBA mountaintop or get into the playoffs, you need to have a potent weapon that's ready right now. Not to say Castle is not there yet, but he definitely still needs a couple more years of seasoning. I know you'll make an argument for Castle in a bit, but nevertheless, if we're looking at right now and projecting 3 years, which player is a little bit more stable, a little bit known, and that is Fox. That's why I say in 3 years from now, it's De'Aaron Fox that's going to be more important for the Spurs over Stephon Castle. Your thoughts on Fox?
Yeah, I think you raise a very valid point. There are definitely two sides of this argument.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one of those, there's not an obvious answer. And I think the reason that, I come here today to say, maybe it could be Castle is just because of everything that we were talking about over the offseason. The fact that they got that number 2 pick, they landed Dylan Harper, right now, heading into the season, which the Spurs proved with their extension of De'Aaron Fox. They wanted to get him on the floor. They really liked what he's been able to do with this team. And he's absolutely the second option next to Victor Wembanyama. Now, 3 years from now, that's going to look a little bit different. You and I don't know what Dylan Harper is going to be capable of. We don't know how he's going to develop. We don't know what Castle is going to look like. I think the three of them right now are very comfortable being a trio, and some see it as a logjam. I think they see it as, an opportunity to kind of, use their talents to the best of their abilities. All three of them feel like they can play with the others. And so the bigger question in 3 years is whether, it's not who's better and who's not. It's just the fact that, Fox is going to be demanding another maximum contract. Maybe it's his last maximum contract when it's all said and done, but it's going to be a question of, what are these two younger guys going to be looking like in 3 years? Because, are you going to go again and pay more money for Fox for another 4 years? Or at that point, are you going to say, we love you. Thank you for what you did for us. We have younger guys on the up and up, and we're going to pay them because they've got longer in the league. You don't know what that's all going to look like. And so that's where I could see both sides.
Yeah, we'll stick it with Fox here since we started with him. You know, this is the guy that wanted to come to San Antonio. He made it known, according to reports, and I believe him. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. He did say he only had San Antonio in his sights when he asked to get out of Sacramento. So that's rare in San Antonio franchise history. That's rare that happens, that you have a guy who's barely entering his prime years. What is he, like in year 6, I think? Year 6, 7?
He's heading into year 9, actually. This will be his 9th season.
But never mind, in year 9, now is entering his lean years and everything. He's coming back healthy. The finger seems to be a non-issue anymore. At least to start the season is a little bit of an issue, but it has nothing to do with the finger. It has to do with the hamstring. So nevertheless, I think you build around known commodities right now. Castle is still kind of an unknown. Was that first year Rookie of the Year season just lightning in the bottle? You know, we've seen it before, in NBA history. Rookie of the Years, yay, and then after that, they kind of fade out. So, and I doubt that'll happen to Castle. I know you're going to dive into that deeper in a bit. But with Fox, though, I just like the known commodity. Like, you know what you're going to get in 3 years. With Castle, you kind of know what you're getting right now, but there's still work to be done from the shot, from the three-point shooting. You heard during media day that they want him to focus more on rebounding. He will eventually supplant Fox, but I don't see that happening in 3 years with Fox still being under contract. And if Fox balls out and is that 1-2 punch, that co-star with Wemby, the Spurs may want to, extend him. There's still that. There's just so much unknown. But what is known is what Fox is going to give you. We have a sample size in Sacramento. We're going to get a sample size in San Antonio. I don't know about those games last year count, but we know what we're going to get. But you know what? Let's take a break. When we get back, we let Matt take over and ask, and we'll pitch why he believes it's Stephon Castle that'll be more important over De'Aaron Fox in 3 years. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs with Matt Guzman. He is with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Follow him on X at MattGZMan. Follow me on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone.
Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to improve and move, whether you're running, lifting, cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you to plan, stay motivated, reach peak performance. You'll love how Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching, tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. Swivel Screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. Personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts suited to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Matt Guzman. He's with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Look, it's Monday. It's likely going to be Matt. And you know what? It wasn't ever by design. It just happened to fall that way. So in this instant, it happened again. I'm thinking, well, screw it. Matt, we're going to have to Mondays with Matt here on Locked On Spurs. What are we talking about right now? We're talking about De'Aaron Fox versus Stephon Castle. No, not who's better or something like that. Just who will be more important to the franchise in 3 years from now. Kind of made some points about Fox, but take it away, Matt. Why do you believe it's actually Castle who'll be more important for the Spurs over De'Aaron?
I think, the biggest point of this pitch comes down to the fact that the Spurs are going to be banking on young talent.
Right.
And like we talked about with Fox, he was one of the first, or I guess he is the first in the Victor Wembanyama era, the first all-star or a player of that caliber to say, I want to go to San Antonio. That's it. I want to play in that city. I want to be with Victor. And so absolutely they made the right move in extending him this season and committing to that. But, at the same time, they're going to want to be committing to their younger players. Stephon Castle's fresh off of a year where he won Rookie of the Year. He proved that, even with all of the injuries and the turmoil with Popovich and Mitch Johnson, he was able to excel, and we've I think 2 weeks ago talked about, where he has still to improve on the shooting and getting to the basket, things like that. But there are so many young players on this team who are going to continue to grow. And that's kind of been the mantra of the Spurs ever since, Duncan retired. They've just been player development. And now they have a foundation and a pathway forward. It doesn't feel like they're stuck in limbo anymore, but players like Castle and Harper are going to be integral to that effort. And so, when you look in 3 years, De'Aaron Fox is going to be entering another contract year. Like I mentioned earlier, he's going to command another maximum contract. And so at that point, if the Spurs buy into what Dylan Harper is giving them, then they say, if we have one max contract available for a point guard, then it might go to Dylan Harper just because, Fox is only going to get older. He'll be 31 at that point. And, that's still relatively young, NBA speaking, but are you going to want to put your max money into De'Aaron Fox, who will be 35 by the time that contract is up? Or are you going to want to put 4 years into Dylan Harper, who spent a lot of time with the Spurs and maybe, if things go the way that they hope they go, will become an all-star caliber point guard of his own. And so it's funny because it's not exactly about Castle. It's more about, which true point guard are they going to commit to? I feel that Castle's skill set is a lot more, on the defensive end, and the fact that he can play 1, 2, 3, he has a lot more versatility. So I think they want to keep him around next to an all-star level point guard, whether that ends up being an aging De'Aaron Fox or an up and coming Dylan Harper, who will be younger than Fox is at this moment in 3 years. Then, I could see that. I could see that being the catalyst for keeping Castle around and kind of, committing to a younger point guard as Victor Wembanyama continues to do his thing.
And you brought up a good point there. Look, the NBA is a business. Look what happened in Boston. That team was riding high in the Eastern Conference, winning the title, and then money got in the way and aprons this and aprons that, and they blew it up. And if the Spurs want to avoid that situation, De'Aaron Fox might be a casualty of that down the road. I think that's the biggest argument why maybe Castle is more important, simply because he might be cheaper versus a De'Aaron Fox, as you mentioned, be looking for that final contract of his NBA career. That is the kind of the biggest reason why you want to look at Castle. And here's the other thing too, is we're not even talking, you brought his name up, but we got to put him in focus, is Victor Wembanyama. Who pairs well with Victor right now? And let's face it, 3 years in the NBA is like 2 minutes in real world time. I mean, it goes by fast. And right now it seems to be that Fox is the better pairing. Now, Castle will get his chance again to prove that maybe he is the go-to guy with Wemby, because De'Aaron Fox is not starting this season, out with a hamstring injury, and Castle likely will get the starting job at that position, the point guard, I should say. So all in all, I think when you look at Victor Wembanyama, who pairs well with him now and in 3 years, the known commodity in it is De'Aaron Fox. It's just a shame that, again, Matt, is delayed again. The Fox-Wemby tandem getting going chemistry is delayed. Kind of a little off topic here, but still sticking with Fox. How bad is this that, again, the Spurs are delaying the Wemby Fox co-star thingy here they got going again?
Look, during the summer league, when they said Dylan Harper was going to be out for the California Classic, at that point I was like, okay, well, that's fine. It almost kind of feels like it's a yearly thing. Somebody's going to be missing the beginning of the season.
Right.
And honestly, like we heard De'Aaron say several times, he's like, I feel like I'm ready to go, but they don't want me to do that. And, Mitch Johnson was saying, between Dylan, Jeremy, and Fox, all three of them want to push it and want to get going. He said, we're just not going to let that happen. So I'm more inclined to believe that it's really just a precautionary thing. I don't think he misses more than a handful of games at the beginning of the season, and then he's, full go for the rest of the year. But I think it's a testament to just the way the Spurs handle that kind of thing, and less about, Fox is injury prone or he's out again. I don't think it's that. I think it's more they just want to be careful. Whatever happened over the offseason, glad it happens now and not in the middle of the year.
Yeah. You know what? Now, kind of going back to the topic here, I know we're looking at Fox versus Castle, who's more important in 3 years, but you mentioned his name. The wild card in all this could be Harper. And if he pans out and if he's, all worth all the hype and, just makes Fox and Castle look like yikes, like who's the better player now? Harper changes everything up and he might become the more important piece in 3 years over these two guys. But again, that's still TBD, to be determined, because he hasn't played a single NBA minute yet. So we don't know, or let alone a full season. We got to see how he handles that. But with Castle versus Fox, again, like Matt mentioned, we're not trying to who's the better player here. We're just saying who will be more important to the franchise down the road. And one other point I want to bring up that lends to giving the nod to Fox is Fox has that playoff experience. This team, all signs are indicating that they couldn't make the playoffs this season, whether that's via the play-in or an outright position at 1 through 6. You gotta lean on that De'Aaron Fox experience. Cass doesn't have that yet. Fox does. That could be more important right now in the short term for the Spurs and resuming and getting back to the NBA mountaintop. You have an inexperienced guard, Castle, or would you rather have an experienced playoff-tested De'Aaron Fox should the Spurs make it in this season or the next 2 seasons? You want to go with Fox. That's why I think he's, it's another nod to him why he could be more important. But I think we both agree here, Matt, eventually, whether it's in 1 year, 2 year, 3 or 4 years, it's Castle. If he's still around here in San Antonio, he's going to supplant Fox, isn't he?
I think so. And I think, like you mentioned a second ago with Harper too, the biggest thing with arguments like this is always just going to be time, because, in 4 years, the Spurs could be, pulling for Giannis. They could be, I'm not, going to manifest anything like that, but we don't know who's going to be forcing their way where. And, it could be like, oh, the Spurs now want to pay Victor Wembanyama and they want to pay this otherworldly star who's all of a sudden become free or all of a sudden forced his way out and wants to go to San Antonio. And then what does that do for Fox? What does that do for Castle and Harper? There's just so many unknowns with it. But, to your point, if Castle is the guy in 3 years and it's very clear, I think we'll have a good sense of, okay, Castle is doing this, Dylan is doing this. These two guys are either, okay, maybe we can afford to let them go, or no. The Spurs are thinking we need to keep these guys here. And if Castle is that kind of player where they're saying, we want him here, and in 3 years it's pretty obvious that that's going to be how they feel, then you kind of have to think that they stick with him. And then it becomes between Dylan and De'Aaron, or De'Aaron and whatever other, point guard star has decided they want to play in San Antonio. We don't know any of that. And so I think it really just becomes, like you're saying, we're not saying who's better than somebody else at the moment. It's just, what is the roster going to look like in 3 years? And are they going to still be prioritizing that youth that they've kind of leaned on for years and years? Because all of those players will be younger than Fox.
As I talk this out with you and, look at all the angles of it, one angle we did not look at, or maybe you kind of hinted at it, is if the Spurs still need to make a move and make this roster stronger, could Fox be the enticing piece to trade?
Sure.
Could he be the one that and in 3 years from now, teams that are on the verge, on the cusp of just breaking out into the conference finals or the NBA finals, they need that player. And what if it's Fox? And the Spurs are holding that card. And let's boost our roster. Let's keep it going. Let's bring in more draft picks or an established player via a Fox trade. Again, not to say that every team would not want Stephon Castle. I'm pretty sure they will. But, Fox seems to be, at least as of now, the better trade chip down the road. So that's an argument for why Castle perhaps is more important, because that stability will be there. Or the same coin, you can say, well, no, Fox is more important because he become a valuable trade chip. Either way, the Spurs are in a good spot right now. I mean, they got a veteran guard entering his prime, shoot the ball, get to the hoop, all that good stuff. He got Castle who do a little bit of everything, but still needs room for improvement. Hopefully, he even said it himself at media day. Remember, Matt, where somebody asked him about about the rookie treatment, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm there yet in my career to be looking at that yet." So he still feels he has a ways to go.
Right.
We shall see. Any other points, Matt, before we shift off and look at some Locked On Spurs fan comments?
Yeah, I guess the other thing I wanted to mention, right, is the fact that this is a conversation in the first place, like this logjam that we've been focusing on for so long. I think at the end of the day, the Spurs would love to keep all three of these players if they continue to do well. I have no doubts that if Fox is still putting up, if he does inevitably get another all-star between now and his next contract next to Victor, they'd love to keep him around. They'd love to keep Harper as an up-and-coming guard. They'd love to keep Castle, but there's just not enough money. And so when you look at this 3-guard logjam, like I mentioned, if there is a star, a very good small forward, maybe a star center, true traditional center that becomes available that wants to make it to San Antonio, or they want to give him a pitch in free agency, I think the reality is the Spurs would rather pay somebody with a completely different skill set than continue to pay 3 guards. You know what I mean? Like it's a good system right now. And it's, like we've been hearing all offseason and media day and stuff, like they believe it can work, but I don't think it's going to be their long-term goal. I don't think their long-term goal is going to be to have a 3-guard lineup. And so that's kind of why this whole thing even exists.
Exactly. Well, good problems to have in San Antonio. He is Matt Guzman with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Follow him on X at MattGZMN. Follow me on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone. When we get back, well, first of all, leave us your thoughts about this topic. Who do you think would be more important for the team down the road, 3 years, Fox or Castle? Again, we told you how y'all can get to a hold of us. Do that right now. All right, coming up next, we'll look at one. We'll look at one Locked On Spurs fan comment and then react to that right here on Locked On Spurs.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You'll love FanDuel because it just fits everything you need. You can build a same-game parlay, do player props, jump into live action as the action unfolds. Make every moment more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. Quick, easy, the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. Cowboys have started their season. Texans are starting their season, so might as well jump on FanDuel right now. You ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Matt Guzman. We're just going to call it right now, Mondays with Matt. That's just how the universe is forcing us to do that. Seriously, every time I ask Matt to come on, it always falls on a Monday. So, again, I think the universe is speaking out loud right now, Matt. What do you think?
I think it's great. If we keep this up, I'm going to have to put it in my Twitter bio, Monday guest at Locked On Spurs.
There you go, Mondays with Matt. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go ahead and look at we got time for one fan comment. Again, Matt has to leave pretty soon here, so we'll respect his wishes and get right to it. All right, so this is from Gabriel JF2MN. Interesting handle there. I wonder what that means. But nevertheless, this is from Gabriel. Now, he's giving out his thoughts on what the starting 5 should be once the season begins. Interesting lineup here, so I'll get your thoughts. He has Wemby, obviously. Luke Cornett, so he's going with the Twin Towers there. Stephon Castle, okay. Devin Vassell, and look at this one, Carter Bryant in the starting unit. I don't think Carter Bryant will be in the starting unit there, Gabriel. He'll likely be in Austin. I had a chance to catch up with him at media day. All signs are pointing that situation will likely happen. But maybe down the road, that could be a starting lineup. But as of against Dallas on the road, when the regular season starts, that's probably not going to happen, at least as far as Carter Bryant not being in it. But everything else, though, is pretty standard. But the interesting one is the Wemby Cornett Twin Tower look. That's been kind of bandied about there, Matt. Are you okay with the Wemby Cornett starting big men right there?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Because I have been saying this for a long, long time. And I'm assuming that Gabriel was taking into account that De'Aaron's not going to be on opening night.
Right. I
Carter
think so.
Over De'Aaron.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's why he did that.
First of all, I do love any and all Carter support. I think that he's a great player. I'm excited to watch him. But no, I think, like I've been saying for a long time, I don't even know how long now, but Victor, I've kind of compared him a little bit to Anthony Davis, because the most successful that Anthony Davis was with the Lakers was when they had Dwight Howard next to him to let him be a 4. He didn't have to be a traditional center. Same thing with Victor. He's a different player than AD, obviously. But, I think his skill set is really just being a positionless big man, somebody with size that can score, doesn't have to be a traditional center, isn't required to get all the rebounds, And so I think having somebody like Luke Cornett next to him is going to be huge. It'll allow him to just kind of play the game he wants to play because Cornett is handling the duties of a traditional center. And back when Zach Collins was with the team, I had said for a long time that was a perfect blueprint like on paper, it looked like a great fit with Collins back
Right.
up at the 5, Victor at the 4. Obviously that didn't work out, but now they have Cornet, and I think Cornet has found a lot of success throughout his career, especially with Boston. Obviously, he's won that championship. He wasn't their all-star, but he was a really big piece for them. And so, I really do think that he fits that mold of the traditional center to let Victor be Victor. And so I am completely in, especially if they're not going to have De'Aaron for the first couple of games. I don't see why they don't try it. I think Jeremy is another guy that they give a look to in the starting lineup to start the year, but I don't see why they wouldn't want to go and at least see what it looks like to have him starting next to him, because I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, this is actually a topic that I want to discuss it more in depth later on this week on Locked On Spurs. Yeah, there is an argument and a good reason why. You hit kind of the highlights there, why Cornet should start next to Wemby. But then I also understand this, if you got to have another big on that bench. When Wemby comes out, we saw what happened last year, Matt. How atrocious was that defense when they had 0 quality backup guys? I mean, Bismack did all he could do. He was respectable, but how much that defense just plummeted when Wemby was not on the court. So there's an argument why you keep Cornet on the bench to have that, that stopgap, that Band-Aid, and a really good Band-Aid. Let's call it duct tape. The duct tape does it all. Cornet. So we shall see. But that's a great comment there. I think we're going to have to dive deeper into that later on in this episode of Locked On. Well, later on this week, I should say, on Locked On Spurs. So good comment there. But as far as Carter Bryant, like the kid, got to know him a little bit better. He's smart, he's intelligent, very mature for his age. But with the logjam at the swingman position, I should say, probably not going to happen. We have Barnes, Keldon, Vassell, sometimes right. Jeremy. Yeah. Carter Bryant's really have to pay his dues first before making a splash. Who knows? There'll be load management games. Knock on wood, but it does happen. Injuries happen, so Carter should get his chance to shine. And look, he even told me too, Matt, he's embracing going to Austin if that happens. Why? Because he gets playing time. That's what he wants. He wants playing time. So he'll probably be wrecking shop in Austin.
Absolutely.
Next season. Yeah, and probably be putting up some pretty good numbers. But again, that's for another show on Locked On Spurs. Matt, I know you're short on time here, but tell us all about what you got going over on Spurs on Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, well, I'm just finishing out. I mean, I feel like we had a gold mine of quotes from media day and training camp, and so still working on, crafting some stories about that. Hopefully, I think the one, for Tuesday will be about De'Aaron Fox and just his leadership style, the way he's kind of embraced his role as one of the veterans now. So that's what you can look forward to. But yeah, season's just around the corner. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I cannot wait. Still got to, like Matt said, it's around the corner, but still got to go through a little bit more training camp and preseason games, and we'll be out of the forest and into the light of the NBA regular season, San Antonio Spurs regular season. Matt, again, thank you for joining us on a Monday. Yes, universe, we hear you loud and clear. You want Matt on Mondays, and it happened again. Again, follow him on X at MattGZMan. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Kids, 5 at YouTube. Go subscribe right now. Be an everydayer. We appreciate you if you are an everydayer. So thank you again. We'll be back tomorrow talking all things silver and black. I believe we have Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. He's on deck. So you know what, Matt? I think we're going to throw off that topic to Wemby Cornet starting unit there.
That'd be great.
I think we're going to discuss that one. And then Matt's going to listen to us and then flip the table over when we say, I shouldn't start. What?
Man, I just want him to try it. Just try it, please.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be up on deck for tomorrow, Tuesday, here on Locked On Spurs. So for Matt Guzman, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.